Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Movie Fandom Show. I'm your host, Matthew Kearns. With me today, we have someone who, if you're a member of the Take 3 page, you know very well, Robert Parker. What's up, man?
Not much. It's all going good. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you are here. And Robert, as you know, as always, my guests bring a film on to talk about. So what movie did you bring on for us to talk about today?
I'm bringing 2000's X-Men, the first X-Men movie, because it doesn't get talked about enough, and we're going to talk about it now.
Yes, it does not get talked about enough. So, Robert, can you remember the first time you saw this movie?
Actually, it was pretty recent. I am a new inductee to the X-Men universe. It was not the first X-Men movie I saw, but of the original trilogy, honestly, it almost competes with X2 for me to be my favorite of the original three. I first saw it probably year and a half, 2 years ago, so it was pretty recent. I mean, but I fell in love with it the first time I saw it, so that's what matters.
Yeah, see, for me, this is a movie. This was one of those renting from the library movies. Like I knew X-Men from the TV show Wolverine the X-Men. I loved that TV show. Great TV show if you've never seen an animated series. And of course the original 90s X-Men series. That was my introduction to the X-Men. And then I actually saw the X-Men movies fairly in order. I saw X-Men, then I saw X2, then I saw First Class, then I saw Days of Future Past. I saw Logan, and then I stayed away from X3 for the longest time because I heard it was bad, and I watched it and I went, it's not good at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we're not talking about
not
we're
good.
talking about the original,
Yeah.
which to start off, people I don't think understand, especially people who are comic book fans now, they don't understand the film world that X-Men was being released in. Like, this was
Hmm.
post Batman and Robin, Steel, that 90s Nick Fury movie, like just a lot of
Yeah.
bad superhero movies that were not making money and were trying to just cater to like really young kids.
Really, X-Men, I mean, even this was pre-Raimi Spider-Man, which a lot of people credit as revamping the comic book genre, but I would argue that it was X-Men. This
Well,
was the turning point.
yeah, I was gonna say, but then there came this, I call it the trifecta that brought us back, and these three movies are the reason why we have the MCU, the DCEU,
Hmm.
Deadpool, all these. It's Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man. Those are the three movies that show people, oh, so you can take this comic book source material seriously. You can still have fun with it, but if you take it seriously, you can make good movies like
Yeah.
they did just a couple. Because people, it was 89 when Batman came out, and then it was 97 when Batman and Robin came out. People don't
Hmm.
understand that. That's a really short time frame between people looking at comic book movies as this dark, harsh,
Yeah.
actiony thing to childish antics. Like, it did. That's just the crazy thing about film. But we're here to
Yeah.
talk about a movie that I agree with you. Most people give to Spider-Man, which is great. I love that is my favorite of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. But X-Men, you have to give it credit. It did it first, and it did it a whole 2 years before Raimi's.
For sure.
So let's just dive into the film. I think before we even talk about anything else, the opening scene of this movie, for someone who really had a base level knowledge about X-Men coming from basically kids' cartoons,
Hmm.
yeah, pretty hardcore way to open your
Yeah.
your fun superhero movies. You open it in not just a concentration camp, but you have a kid being ripped away from his parents, which if you read anything, this happened all the time. Families
Yeah.
were split apart, but there's something, this kid is able to pull the metal fence
Yeah, it was like a
apart, and
gate.
then you go into the opening logos, which the
Hmm.
music to this film is just insanely good, and I don't think gets enough credit. But now that I got
Yeah.
out of the way, because I just had to say, you have to understand, I was in like 6th grade the first time I saw this movie, renting it, and I'm thinking I'm gonna see, Storm and Jean Grey and Wolverine, and then I see a concentration camp, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
all right, grows
I
you
mean,
up fairly fast.
yeah, it's definitely not a bright and sunny, happy opening, but I also think it gives really, really important backstory into Magneto right away. So,
Yeah.
I mean, especially, I mean, a lot of people would argue that the X-Men films were about Logan, which, they are, but in a sense, they're also about the relationship between Charles and Eric. And I think you really need that opening scene of Eric to understand the reason he hates humans.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I always say that the original trilogy and Days of Future Past add on to that, and Logan, of course, that's Logan's story. The
Mm-hmm.
prequels, which, First Class, Days of Future Past as well, and then Apocalypse, that's Eric and Charles' story. It's the
Mm-hmm.
two, prequels original, but let's get into, you mentioned him, Logan, Wolverine, played amazingly by Hugh Jackman. Wolverine is one of my favorite top 4 comic book characters, and
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, I think, top 5 best portrayals of superhero. And it's so funny because
Easy.
he wasn't even supposed to be, he wasn't
Yeah.
originally cast.
Yeah. Easy. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is in. I mean, part of it is because he's been doing it for so long, but even just taking a look, just in this movie, just in X-Men 2000, he does such a great job with that character. You instantly feel connected to that character. And for somebody who wasn't supposed to be cast, he should be cast. Like, obviously,
Yes.
he was so good.
I mean, it's really funny when when I heard that story, actually, Jacob told me that whole thing. I didn't know that. But looking at the movie again today, it was like, you can clearly see that's the case, because if you look at X2 to all the rest of the X movie, Hugh Jackman is jacked beyond belief. And that's not to say, listen, Hugh Jackman is in amazing shape in this movie,
Yeah.
but like, he's not like he is in the other, like, even you look at X2, because you got to think, for all the other X movies, he had like months of training, whereas this, he literally, I could be misquoted here, but I think he joined like a week before production started.
It definitely wasn't years that he had to prepare, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, again, one of the luckiest things, and Hugh Jackman, from everything I've heard, is one of the kindest actors like in the world. Like, if you get a chance to like work with him, he's apparently amazing. But he's not the only great. I mean, this I'll put up there with the original Superman, '89 Batman, as one of the best cast superhero movies of all time. Like, I can't think of anyone who's out of place. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think there were some choices made here and there, whether that's directorial or actor. There were some choices that I think are just a little bit off, but as far as
accent.
pure, yeah, that's what I'm referring
We'll
to.
get to that.
Yeah, but as far as pure cast goes, nothing I don't think was miscast. I think everybody did serviceable or better in their roles.
Yeah, I mean, you got Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier. Basically, Jean-Luc Picard, if Jean-Luc Picard was in a wheelchair and could read your mind. Like, he does the same thing he was doing on television for years, and it's perfect. And then you got Ian McKellen giving one of the greatest movie villain performances, I'll say. And it's great because it's great for the same reason that a Darth Vader is great, because you 100%, like, you don't, and that's the thing that McKellen does so well, is you don't agree with what he's doing, but you get why. You're like, yeah, if I was a young Jewish kid during the Holocaust who saw all these people doing this stuff to me, yeah, I'd have a pretty screwed up idea of, humankind. And then if I found out that I was above them in evolution sense, yeah, I may want to, just wipe them. Like,
yeah,
it's understandable.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. You totally understand the motivation for the villain at its most basic form, which is something that I think a lot of movies nowadays don't have, and that's like a big problem. Even with comic book movies nowadays, there are some here and there that
you just look at the MCU.
Why'd you do that? Like, what? Why? Why? Tell me why. Look at the MCU. Look at characters like Malekith, or look at Ultron, or like there are so many villains that could be so great, but the most basic fundamentals of motivations for their evil actions aren't there. In X-Men, they are there. Eric and Magneto, Ian McKellen does a fantastic job bringing that to life.
I mean, you got Femke Janssen playing
Yeah,
Jean Grey, who most
she's
people at the
great.
time knew from GoldenEye, who she is. I'm gonna say, when it comes to like females in superhero, films, I'll put her right up there with Margot Kidder in the original Superman. Like, I just think she's so
Yeah.
good, and the love story they do in the first two films, and I guess in a sense in the third one with James Marsden as Cyclops, I
Yeah.
think it's done so well.
James
Like,
Marsden.
it's taken straight from the comics, and James Marsden, who I feel terrible for, this guy can't cut a break in comic book movies. Like, Cyclops, whatever the heck he was in Superman Returns, like, he can't cut a break with women.
Mhm.
Well, I guess in this one kind of, but we know how that ends for him.
Yeah.
Then we mentioned her voice before, but Halle Berry is Storm, who is great cast. Bad choice on the accent in this film.
Oh, I was talking about a different accent. I was talking about Anna Paquin's accent as Rogue. That's the accent. Storm's.
No, Storm's. Okay, we'll get to Rogue, but Halle Berry is Storm. I see what she was doing. She probably got told this character where she's from, and she went, okay, so this character has an accent. And you can hear it's very similar to Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where it's like, I'm supposed to have an English accent, and I will do it 90% of the time. The rest will be American. Thank God and that's why I'm so happy. In X2, she drops it, and everyone, we just forget about it. But Rogue, great acting. Yeah, that accent is a little.
Yeah, and I like Anna Paquin as Rogue.
Oh, she's fantastic.
I think she's great as the character, but that accent, it's like, it's half Southern and half British, and it doesn't work well together.
Yeah, you kind of just go, Brian.
Yeah.
Any notes like at any of the table reads when she was trying this out? You just might, no, this will work. This will be good.
And like. Even Bryan Singer, I think, does a great job with this, and not only his X-Men movies, but I also love like other movies that he does. And you can see in all of his movies, if you look at his entire filmography, everything feels the same. Like, I mean, it's not as like similar as like say a Tarantino or something like that, but it's still, I mean, you look at Valkyrie, you look at Usual Suspects, you look at the X-Men's that he's done.
You know a Bryan Singer film when you see it.
Exactly.
Like, something, and that's it's impressive, and I feel bad his track record, he's got some duds in there, but for the most part, he's pretty good, and it's impressive. There are people, you mentioned Tarantino, Spielberg, Burton, when you just see a movie and you go, that's a Bryan Singer movie. Like, not a lot of directors have that.
Yeah, but, that's signature style.
Yeah, so I want to just ask you, I already talked about Logan is my favorite character from this movie. Hugh Jackman is amazing. Do you have a favorite character in this film?
I think a lot of characters are done really, really well, but I would say my favorite, maybe it's just because I love Ian McKellen so much, but Magneto. I mean, we already discussed
you talked about it, but I just had to ask.
No, I understand.
Both of these.
We discussed it, but I love when when movies have villains that you truly, on such a deep level, you understand why they're doing what they're doing, and it makes it so hard. You sympathize, and it makes it so hard internally for you watching the movie. It makes it so hard to root against them because you're like, I understand why you're doing what you're doing.
The thing I like in this is you sympathize with him enough, but they also make him evil enough that you don't start totally rooting for him.
Exactly.
I understand why you're doing this, but you kidnap Rogue, you're going to kill her just to, turn all these other people mute, and you go, you're not a totally good guy, so I'm not going to get behind you. I'm going to get behind Xavier, because that's a difficult tightrope to walk in a movie, because sometimes you can make your villains just totally, you can make them a Joker from 89 or Dark Knight, where it's just totally evil. You don't get why they're doing it, and they're just evil for evil's sake.
Someone want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, exactly. But then you do this sympathetic villain, and
Mhm.
you run the risk of, because you never want to 100% sympathize with your villain, because then you
Yeah,
want your hero to defeat your. If we totally 100% stood by everything Magneto was doing, we wouldn't
yeah,
be happy when Wolverine and the rest of the X-Men take him down at the end. We'd be like, oh, I
yeah.
just take over the world.
I
Oh.
also I also think that it's actually, I mean, it's more difficult to write a villain that you sympathize with than it is to write one and
That's
like
evil.
portray one that's just pure evil. Just pure evil, I feel like, is easier to bring to screen than it is to bring a villain
Sympathetic
that you
evil.
sympathize
Yeah,
with.
because that's what I was saying is, and that's why I give X-Men so much credit with Magneto, because they
Absolutely.
did this right off the bat, because you're like, you care enough about him, you understand enough of his backstory to get why he's doing it, and you follow him to a certain point, but they give him enough of those want to watch the world burn
Mhm.
moments that you go, no, I'm gonna stick with the X-Men on this, but I see. Okay. That's why
Yeah.
I'm glad that you don't get killed off.
Yeah, even in the
MCU.
even in the burn, like watch little burn moments. I mean, you have the scene where he kidnaps, or really when Mystique kidnaps Senator Kelly, I think is his name,
Yeah.
and then he turns Senator Kelly into a mutant, and then he tries to escape out the bars, and Ian McKellen's just like, "Where would you go? Like,
Yeah, that's I
what are you
love that
doing?"
scene when it's just like, "Where would you go, Senator?
Yeah,
You're one of us now."
exactly.
Speaking of scenes, do you have a particular favorite scene? I tend to ask this of my guests. Do you
Ooh.
have a favorite scene from this film?
I have a lot of scenes that I love, but if I have to pick one that's my absolute favorite, it's the first time we see Logan on screen
Oh,
when they're in Laughlin City and Rogue had been hitchhiking there
yeah,
and walks into this arena type area and Logan's beating this guy up in a steel cage and this other guy comes in and he beats him up. So I think the introduction of Logan in that sense is probably my favorite scene. I mean, there's so many other scenes I love. I love the final action sequence on the Statue of
oh, the
Liberty.
action is great.
I love when Logan, like just after that scene I just mentioned, when they're in the bar and he cuts the guy's gun in half. I like when, actually, surprisingly, actually, a lot of people don't like this about X-Men, but I do. I love the way they portray Sabretooth in this movie
Mm,
because I think it's way better than the Sabretooth in Origins Wolverine. Like I love Liev Schreiber,
yeah,
but
okay. We're talking about the
but
good X-Men movies.
yeah, but I
Stick
think
with the
Tyler
good.
Mane does a great job as Sabretooth. I really like the way that he's portrayed. So I like when Sabretooth first attacks.
Yeah, it's too bad
Uh,
he was only in this movie and then they killed him off.
yeah.
It's too. I could have seen him in X2, but my favorite scene has to be, and it's actually a scene that I've talked to some people about, and this is just the thing about comic book movies. Some people hate when they get too dramatic, when they get too mopey. Some people say it's the scene with Rogue and Logan on the train. That
Oh
I
yeah.
love the conversation, because you see it building up that Rogue, she gets Mystique is disguised herself as Iceman, she, all this,
Hmm.
and she just feels completely alone. She's gonna run away. And Logan, is just on the train and just talk to her. And that I love the little moment how when she's sitting on the train alone, she looks over, she's the mom and the kid lays her head on the mom. And then when Logan comes, she lays her head on Logan. It's
Yeah.
just the moment, and this is again why I love Hugh Jackman, and I think he's such an underrated actor. When he says the line, "I'll take care of you," you
Hmm.
100% believe that he's gonna, no matter what, he's gonna stay at that school to watch her, and it's just. I'm
Yeah.
getting a little choked up talking about it right now because
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful, well done scene.
I'm
I would hate for us to do this and not talk about Michael Kamen's score.
Yeah, Michael Kamen's score, like as kind of a film score nerd, it's so good. One of the best pre. I I kind of link.
I'm gonna say
Let
one
me
of the
figure out.
best post Danny Elfman Batman scores.
Yes, yeah. Post Danny, it is. I would say it is the best as far as comic book movies are concerned. The best post Danny Elfman, pre Danny Elfman, because post Danny Elfman Batman, pre Danny Elfman Spider Man.
Yeah,
Between those two, I think Michael Kamen's X-Men score is phenomenal.
and I don't think it gets enough credit. Like I will listen sometimes when I'm doing work or when I'm just even when I'm writing, I listen to a lot of music. One of the tracks I have on my iTunes library, I have tracks that I just have like a playlist that's just writing. One of the ones I have is Logan and Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Just that, and the particular part I'm talking about is when it's at the near the end of the movie. It's after she's sort of a lot of her energy has been drained in the machine, and when he's holding her and he's trying to get her to absorb his healing abilities, and
Yeah.
just the I can't even like recreate, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Just it does such a good job of, and along with Hugh Jackman's acting, just you
Mhm.
go through the motions of like it's such a great moment, and that is such an amazing. I love that. Oh god, it's so good.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite track, or is that am I asking? You
Um,
said you were a film score nerd, so
a little bit, yeah. If anything, I would even just say my favorite uh piece of score from this movie is probably the theme that plays over the opening credits. Just the in general, the X-Men theme. I think I'm a huge sucker for big orchestral themes kind of thing. Like I love the little minuscule minimalist moments, but man, when you can get such a rocking great central theme, Michael Kamen knocks it out of the park with the X-Men
yeah,
theme that plays over the opening credits. I love it. I love it
yeah.
to death.
It's
Uh, you spoke earlier about like memorable lines that I'll take care of you. There's two lines I wanted to mention. One is memorable for a good reason, the other's not. But one of my favorite lines in the movie is when Rogue is hitchhiking with Logan towards the beginning of the film. And this is after the bar scene, so she saw the claws come out, and that's the first time that we as an
I know
audience see
what
the
line you're
claws
gonna
come
say.
out. And he puts his hand on the steering wheel, and the camera refocuses to his knuckles, and she goes, "Does it hurt when they come out?" And you just see the look on Hugh Jackman's face when he goes, "Every time." And that hits you because I love, especially if you then think about that when you're watching Logan now. That
Oh, the one scene when he
yeah, when he's pulling it out, that transition I think comes for full circle for Logan's character, and I love that.
it's
The other line that I have to
I feel
mention
like I know which
is
one.
a storm line towards the end during the battle sequence.
Hold on, wait, everyone prepare to face palm.
Yeah, you know what happens when a toad gets struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
My god.
Why include that? Like,
Like you're doing such a good job of trying to do a darker, harsher comic book movie. But you still gotta get, you know what? I guess you can't quite shake the Batman and Robin out of you. I mean, listen, mentioning that line does lead to we didn't talk about Ray Park in this movie.
Ripper is great, yeah.
You know, people. I'm not sure if younger viewers who are, if you're watching this, I apologize for any language I've ever used during the course of this show, but like Ray Park at a time was like the stuntman guru. Darth Maul,
Mm-hmm.
X-Men, the first GI Joe film. I'm not sure if he's in the rest, but like he would like do his own stunts. Like he was a stuntman actor.
Yeah, he was in G.I. Joe Retaliation,
He was
and
in
I
a
think
lot of movies.
Cobra too, like the more recent ones.
Like just so, and the guy is you listen to stories about him, especially from the Star Wars films. He works so hard, and like you just look on screen, just that even in this movie, the stuff he does, just the acrobatics, just
It's
amazing.
great. Yeah, Ray Park's awesome.
What are your final wrapping up thoughts on X-Men, Rob?
Yeah, so I really, really like this movie. For me, it's endlessly rewatchable. I mean, I only saw it, fairly recently, but I've revisited it multiple times since I first saw it. It is great. There are those moments of 90s comic book cheese, but you can look past it when you get the amazing character moments, of Wolverine, the character moments of Rogue, of Eric and Charles, of Jean Grey. There are so many individual character moments that outshine any negative comment that you can make about this movie. And it's 17 years later. The effects may look a little bit dated, but it's so who cares? Who cares? The character moments and the acting, it holds up. And also, it's the first appearance by Stan Lee in a cameo role.
That is true. When he's on it's the beach, correct?
Yep, on the beach. He's a hot dog vendor.
I just wanted, before I give my wrap up, I'll just say something to what you say, which is, yeah, the effects may not look as great as stuff today, but no, I was watching the Flash, John Wesley strip series from 1990. Some of the effects in that aren't great, but watching that show, I've started to rewatch it. You start to realize, and this is just something for filmmakers in general, for storytellers, in general. Something I always think of George Lucas' quote, which is, "Yeah, I know everyone likes to make fun of it now, but effects are just a tool to telling a story. You can have terrible effects. You can have horrible, oh, that is totally CGI effects, but if your story and your characters are good, that shouldn't matter."
Yeah.
And again, I think of Doug Walker as one of my favorite reviewers. There's a great video he did, which is, when is it right to nitpick? And he ended the video with, if you're seeing a puppet show and you question why can you see the puppeteer, you should really question, why did you bother more paying attention to the puppeteer but not paying attention to the puppet?
Yeah.
Like it's story before effects. Have all the shitty effects you want. As long as the story is great, I'm not going to care.
Yeah, nitpick the story if you're going to nitpick something, but there is no element of this story, in my opinion, that you can nitpick.
No.
The story and characters in X-Men is brilliant.
It is so good. Yeah, my final wrap-up thoughts. One of the best comic book movies. For the longest time, it was my favorite X-Men movie. Now that is Logan or First Class. Some people tend to put Logan outside the X-Men universe, which is fair enough. But still a fantastic movie. If you have never seen X-Men, if me and Robert haven't convinced you to go and see it, please go watch it. You watch X-Men and watch X2. You will not be upset.
Yeah.
I want to thank Robert for coming on. And where can the good people find you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. It was great time. I love talking about movies that are underrated. You can find me on Twitter at RBRTPRKR98. You can find me on the Letterboxd app and website at the same handle, where you can follow my movie watching, and you can find me strewn about here and there on the Take 3 channel.
And as always, you guys can find me at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter, MattMovies611 on YouTube, and right here hosting Movie Fandom Show every other Wednesday. I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank Robert Park for being on, and I want to remind you finally to keep loving movies. Take care.